This is the L2C Media Network, and this is Sports Final with Steve the Baxman Baxley, live from the Fred McLeod Sports Desk at the O'Neill Studios in Jackson. Brought to you by the L2C Media Network. Now, with the details that make the headlines in the world of sports go round and round, here's our host, Steve Baxley. Hey, thank you, Harry. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to what I hope is going to be a very interesting broadcast tonight. We have our Monday night recap. And don't forget, Tuesday we pick the Big Five and we recap those games, except for the Monday night, which we recap tonight. Plus, we got the latest sports headlines and some media bites, including the definitive night that the lights go out on NBCSN and who gets to pick up most of their sports programming. You will definitely not believe it. We're going to tell it all to you now. As we do, let's take you to baseball. No, let's not do that. Let's take you to our Monday night game. And that would be Monday night. Yes. Hello. Okay, we finished week 8. And we had what game was did we do here? Oh boy. Okay, we had the Chiefs and the New York Giants. Let's tell it like it is. It wasn't easy, but the Kansas City Chiefs pulled off a 20-17 victory over the New York Giants on ESPN's Monday Night Manning Football. Kansas City struggled to move the ball throughout the evening, averaging just 4.8 yards per play. Even when the Chiefs did get something going, they undermined themselves with drops, penalties, and turnovers. And yet, given a chance at a game-winning drive with around 5 minutes left, Patrick Mahomes led the team down the field for a field goal to take a 3-point lead. Giants had a chance, or last-ditch drive, but Chris Jones snuffed it out almost all by himself. Pressures on Daniel Jones on 2 of New York's 4 snaps on their final drive, forcing a sack, and then causing Jones to attempt to scramble and fumble to end the game. Kansas City's record is now at an even 4-4. New York is a pathetic 2-6. And we will bring you all the rest, obviously, on the Tuesday night. Giants and Chiefs will be one of the the 5 that we will be reviewing for you. Chiefs will stay at home in Week 9 for an even bigger matchup. This one with the Packers at 7-1, who'll be coming off extra rest following their Thursday night win over Arizona. The Giants, meanwhile, will return home for a cross-conference showdown with the Raiders at 5-2, leading the AFC West, and will be coming off their bye week. Speaking of bye weeks, the Lions have one. The less said, the better. Final score 2017, Kansas City over the Giants. Full details tomorrow. And let's keep going with the NBA. By the way, all scores we give you tonight presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Remember, we are all Caesars. And right now, only one game to update you on. Minute 48 left to play in the third. It's the Oklahoma City Thunder over the Los Angeles Clippers, 69-63. Let's go everything else. It's all the final. Let's do this. Cavaliers beat the Hornets by 3, 113-110. Portland Trail Blazers lost to the Philadelphia 76ers, 113-103. Pacers outdueled the Spurs. Indianapolis over San Antonio, 131-118. Chicago Bulls beat the Boston Celtics by a score of 128 to 114. Toronto Raptors over the New York Knicks, 113 to 104. Atlanta Hawks over the Washington Wizards, 118 to 111. Memphis Grizzlies over the Denver Nuggets, 106-97. And the Orlando Magic over the Minnesota Timberwolves, 115 to 97. And that is your NBA scoreboard. And we go from the NBA scoreboard to the NHL. It's our hockey segment. 3 games in the Pro, the National Hockey League, and they all they heard me. We got some 3 stars. The defending Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning over the Washington Capitals, 3-2. Cirelli gets first star, 1 goal, 2 assists for Tampa Bay. Vasilevsky for Tampa Bay, 31 saves, and Cernak for Tampa Bay, no information. Linda Steele, Ottawa Senators, 5-1. Kane for Chicago, 3 goals, 1 assist. Fleury for Chicago, 2 goals. There's your 3 stars. Oilers over the Kraken, 5-2. Draisaitl, Draisaitl of Edmonton, 2 goals, 2 assists for Edmonton, 1 goal. And Koskinen for Edmonton, 27 saves. And those are 3 games those are the games that took place, and hallelujah, we survived. Now let's go see some minor league action, and we'll check out if any games were played in the AHL tonight. Kind of looks like a sad night. No action for the AHL. Tuesday it'll be Texas and Colorado, and a big night of action. So this will probably mean that the Ontario Hockey League has no action either. And we would be probably exactly correct. Yep, we would be correct. No action in either Ontario or in the American Hockey Leagues. Tomorrow, by the way, the Guelph Storm takes on the Kitchener Rangers. So there you go right there. So that ends our little hockey segment. Let's get you now some words of report on as we count down to the NFL trade deadline. The Steelers are shopping veteran pass rusher Melvin Ingram ahead of Tuesday's 4 p.m. trade deadline. Aditi Kinkabawa of the NFL Network reported during an appearance on 93.7 The Fan. Ingram, who signed a 1-year deal with the Steelers in July, was inactive for an injury. Ingram reportedly expressed displeasure over his lack of playing time. The 4-time 6% of the Steelers' defensive snaps during Pittsburgh's Week 7 win over the Seahawks. After starting in each of the Steelers' defensive snaps during Pittsburgh's Week 3 loss to the Bengals, Ingram played in 49% and 60% of Pittsburgh's defensive snaps in its next 2 games. Ingram is playing behind starters TJ Watt and second-year linebacker Alec Highsmith. Kinkhabawala said of Ingram via 93.7 The Fan's Andrew Filipponi, quote, "He doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want to be a part of the team. He thinks he's better than Alex Highsmith," end quote. Ingram has 1 sack and 10 tackles in 6 games this season. Highsmith, who missed Pittsburgh's Week 3 loss to the Bengals with a groin injury, had 1.5 sacks in Pittsburgh's Week 7 win over Seattle. He's had 4 tackles in Sunday's win over the Browns with Ingram inactive. Second-year pass rusher Derek Tezuka has received 5 snaps in relief duty. Now, possible trade destinations for Ingram include, obviously, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Seattle Seahawks, Dallas Cowboys, and Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Tampa Bay is currently tied for 21st in NFL in sacks, while Seattle and Dallas are tied for 26th in the league in sacks. The Chiefs are currently last in the NFL in sacks, entering Monday night's game against the New York Giants. One big blockbuster trade that we didn't make mention of because it wasn't official, but now it is. The Denver Broncos have sent franchise icon Von Miller to the Los Angeles Rams in exchange for a pair of day 2 draft picks in 2022. Now, Miller spent his first 10-plus seasons with the Broncos, totaling 110 and half sacks in 142 games with the franchise. The MVP of Super Bowl 50, Miller has 7 double-digit sack seasons with 3 All-Pro selections and 8 Pro Bowl appearances in 7 games with the Broncos this season. Miller has 4.5 sacks, 19 tackles, and 9 quarterback hits. Now, the Rams are clearly all in with the addition of Miller, making sure they have all the pieces necessary to win the Super Bowl this year. Did LA give up too much for Miller? Well, let's take you to the grades. Rams general manager Les Snead deserves a lot of credit for not even worrying about the draft. Why pick a bunch of unproven commodities when an organization can trade for a proven asset that can help a franchise win now? Snead doesn't know how that 2022 second round and third round pick will pan out, but he knows what the Rams are getting with Miller. Miller has been the premier pass rusher in the NFL for the last decade, as his 110.5 sacks since 2011 lead the league. His 142 tackles for loss are second only to J.J. Watt, and his 225 quarterback hits are third to Watt and Carlos Dunlap. And this was with Miller missing the entire 2020 season due to an Achilles injury. Miller is also getting paired with Aaron Donald on the defensive line, who has the most sacks in the NFL since he entered the league in 2014. That's 201 sacks on one defensive line between 2 players, along with Leonard Floyd and Sebastian Joseph Day. Rams already lead the NFL in sacks with 25 and are 5th with 104 pressures. Now they're adding Miller's 4.5 sacks and 25 pressures to the mix. Was the draft capital a little high? Maybe, but the Rams are only paying Miller $700,000 of his $9 million salary. Los Angeles only has a compensatory third-round pick in the first 4 rounds of next year's draft, but the Rams are going for a Super Bowl. Draft picks clearly don't matter to Snead, even if he only has Miller for half a season. Now, as for the Broncos, well, they did good as well. Denver's general manager, George Payton, saw the writing on the wall with Miller, who had a half year left on his 6-year, $114.5 million contract and will be a free agent at the conclusion of the season. The Broncos are 4-4 and in the AFC playoff race, but this team isn't close to being a Super Bowl contender. There was no reason to hang on to Miller when there were 2 day 2 draft picks offered on the table, all to take on $9 million of Miller's remaining $9.7 million salary. Basically, the Broncos bought a second-round pick. They took on Miller's salary. Smart business decision by Payton. They did not give Miller away to a contender, but added future assets to a draft haul that includes their own draft pick in each of the first 4 rounds. Denver has a first-round pick, 2 second-round picks, 2 third-round picks, and a fourth-round pick in 2022. Enough capital where some of those picks can be used to acquire a franchise quarterback. Now, Broncos do need a franchise quarterback if they wish to compete for a Super Bowl in the AFC, and were linked to Aaron Rodgers on several occasions during the offseason. These draft picks from the Miller deal won't be enough to get Rodgers, but if Denver uses multiple first-round picks to acquire a player of his caliber, the Broncos, well, they'll have some draft picks to fall back on to make the roster look better than ever. There's no downside towards trading Miller, especially since Denver didn't give him away, which is true. And there you go. Do we have any more? No, we don't. Okay, let's keep going with the headlines. And we will keep going with headlines. Let's get with it and get on it. Okay. In college basketball, give you a little report, by the way, tomorrow is game number 6 between the Houston Astros and the Atlanta Braves. Atlanta just 1 win away from capturing a Super Bowl. Houston 1 win away from going back to Atlanta for the rubber game of the World Series, Game 7. And we'll tell you more about that tomorrow. Right now, we got this to finish up, and we do so. Number 11, Illinois will be without preseason Big Ten Player of the Year, Kofi Cockburn, for its first 3 games of the season. Sits because of an NC2A suspension. Cockburn sold, quote, institutionally issued apparel and memorabilia, end quote, in June before it was permissible to do so under an NIL guideline, according to a statement from Illinois. Now, under the terms of the suspension, Cockburn will pay gain from the apparel sales through a charitable donation. The Illini open against Jackson State on November 9th and play Arkansas State on November 12th. Illinois should be able to handle those opponents without Cockburn, who averaged 17.7 points and 9.5 rebounds last season. But where are we here? But Illinois' 3rd game against Marquette on November 15th could be a challenge. After serving the suspension, Cockburn will be able to make his season debut in the Illini's game versus Cincinnati on the 22nd in the Hall of Fame Classic in Kansas City. Cockburn announced in mid-June that he would return for his junior season with Illinois after initially indicating that he planned to pursue a professional career. The 7-footer is also entered in the transfer portal before deciding to join the Illini. He is, of course, a preseason first-team All-America, as predicted by CBS Sports. All right, we gave you yesterday the big winnings, and we want to remind you, please join us for a special sports final special. The college football playoff rankings show. We start at 7 o'clock. Yours truly will be the one that brings you all of the rankings. And we did predict, and we're still predicting, that Michigan State could get at least a 4th, number 4 ranking, quite possibly number 3, but we know Georgia will get the first shot, and Ohio State will be on the outside looking in. All right, let's keep going here. And we are about, it's 12:27 in the morning. We're going to try to make it to 12:45. Speaking of football, yet we're not. We're speaking of basketball. And it seems that Alabama has picked up its 2nd top 100 basketball commitment of the day on Monday when 4-star power forward Noah Clowney announced his commitment to the Crimson Tide. Live on CBS Sports HQ, Clowney's commitment follows a pledge from 5-star wing Brandon Miller earlier in the day. As 3rd-year Crimson Tide coach Nate Oates continues to thrive on the recruiting trail. Clowney is ranked the number 62 overall player in the 2022 class by the 24/7 Sports, and is considered the top player in the class from South Carolina. He chose Alabama over Indiana and Virginia Tech to give Crimson Tide their 3rd commitment of the 2022 class. In addition to the Monday commitment from Miller, Oates also landed a verbal commitment from 5-star point guard Jaden Bradley on September 30th. So on that little subjective. Let's now take you on a round the world tour of sports with, of course, our focus on Thank you. There we go. With a focus on football, or soccer as it's called. Let's get to all that we can get to in the time allotted. If we can, there we go. And in the Premier League, the Wolverhampton Wanderers beat Everton by a score of 2-1 in the Irish Premier Division. Sligo Rovers over Longford Town 1-0. St. Patrick's Athletic and Bohemians tied at 2. Finn Harps and Drogheda United also ended in a goose tie. Spanish La Liga action, Real Vallecano and Celta Vigo tied at 0. Granada over Levante 3-0. Italia Series A had Bologna over Cagliari 2-0. Cuiabá in the Brazil Series A, Cuiabá beat Red Bull Bragantino 1-0. Danish Superliga action, Odense Bold Club over Aarhus in goose eggs. Greek Super League, Ionikos and Volos tied at 1. Portuguese Premier League, Sporting Braga over Portimonense 3-0. Moreirense and Pacos de Ferreira tied at 1. In Sweden, it was Göteborg over Degerfors 1-0. Halmstad over AIK 1-0. Jalby over Hammarby 2-0. Turkish Super League action. Antalyaspor over Giresunspor 2-1. Istanbul over Adana 2-1. That is your the football. Now, time to get to some headlines and details on the media from our friends at Awful Announcing. And, well, we have been waiting for of just when NBCSN will be shut down. NBC Universal, as you know, announced this year that the lifespan of NBCSN is coming to an end, although they didn't really give a definitive answer to when it will end. Some speculation was December 31st. Well, now that speculation is now confirmed. In July, everyone asked the question, when will NBC Universal Cable's NBCSN shut down? Now, based on dates listed in press releases for future event coverage, kind of said and thought the likely time was around Christmas. And it turns out that prediction is a week early. Now, our little show, Last Call Cafe, and this broadcast opined that with the channels, with NBC Universal, the owner of NBCSN, announcing plans to shut down, they said it would shut down at the end of the year. We figure December 31st, midnight Eastern. Well, per the Sports Business Journal, the lights will go dark and the network will go to hash on December 31st, with sports content shifting over to the USA Network, which means the return of USA Sports. The sports that will be on USA are, among others, the Premier League, NASCAR, pair of IndyCar races, Atlantic 10 hoops, and various Olympic sports. Some unnamed sports will be shifting to the business news channel, CNBC, which has aired some Premier League matches in recent years. E! Network and Peacock, which is becoming a popular spot for some of NBC sports coverage. December 31st is as good a time as any to shut the network down for several reasons. First, it's the end of the year and a natural closing point. Second, there are no Premier League matches on the calendar for that day, the one day off for the league across 9 straight days, beginning with Boxing Day. Third, fans will be tuned in elsewhere anyway on the 31st. 5 college football bowl games are scheduled for that Friday, including the first 2 college football playoff semifinals on ESPN. So when you're pouring your champers into your glass on New Year's Eve, make sure to salute NBCN, as we will here on our broadcast. Coming soon. It's a day. Okay, and more media. Well, a frequent element of the past decade of coverage of sexual abuse and abuse of power scandals across sports is how teams and leagues have initially looked to keep those situations very quiet, then shifted to an approach of damage control and limitation of their own potential liability once allegations have emerged publicly. That happened, at least in some extent, with Penn State football, hockey coach Graham James, Baylor football, USA Gymnastics, LSU football, the New York Mets, and other cases. And it's currently happening with the investigations into the Vancouver Whitecaps and Canadian soccer, CONCACAF, the NWSL, the Washington football team, and the Chicago Blackhawks. And as that last link notes, one thing is positive with the Blackhawks NHL investigation is that it saw a full report release. That's something we sometimes seen in college cases, particularly thanks to the access of information laws there, but rarely in the pro cases. And the Blackhawk case has also been additionally notable for victim Kyle Beach coming forward to deliver raw and honest comments about those who let him down, and Brad Aldrich later victims at Miami University and at a Michigan high school down. That could extend to a lot of NHL figures, including Stan Bowman, Al McIsaac, and Joe Quenneville, who have resigned, and Kevin Shoveldoff, who has not, and NHL Player Association figures, including Executive Director Donald Fair, also still in that role. Now, amidst all that, the conference call that the NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman and Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley held with the media on Monday was notable, but in many ways it seemed to indicate a return to the pattern of behavior we've seen before in these investigations. Bettman's call featured defense of the Blackhawks ownership and of Shoveldayoff. Defenses of the league's $2 million fine for the Blackhawks, well below what they've been implemented for purely hockey-related matters, and with no accompanying hockey punishment. They're also limited to no promises to help those already hurt and limited promises of tangible actions to improve. And some further takes on it from reporters on Twitter who were on the call, including TSN's Rick Westhead, a key figure in the reporting, and one who only got his question answered after Pierre LeBrun of The Athletic called for it. Westhead asked Beckman if the NHL will publicly commit to providing counseling to the former high school player who was abused by Aldrich and to his family. Bettman said the league needs more information and won't make that commitment right now. Westhead continues, Brad Aldrich was sentenced to 9 months in jail in 2014 for abusing John Doe No. 2, the former high school player. Aldrich, a registered sex offender. Gary Bettman says he needs more info before committing NHL to care for John Doe 2. Take a second and imagine you're John Doe 2 hearing this comment. And a few other little chimed notations. The behavior of Bettman in the NHL in conducting this call also deserves some scrutiny. In addition to not initially taking a question from Westhead, which only makes sense as an attempt to further bury the story, given that Westhead and Strang have been widely acknowledged as the two key figures in reporting it. Until LeBron pushed for that, Bettman also made a weird implication about Mark Lazarus of The Athletic. Bettman's, quote, I assume you're as surprised as I am, end quote, seemed to suggest that Lazarus should have been covering this in 2010, despite not being on the Blackhawks beat at the time. A very interesting case in blame, I guess. Anyway, the NHL's response is that it seemingly would have been easier for Bettman to take a harder line than many because at this point, this is still primarily about one franchise, not the whole league, but it just might be about the whole league. Compare that to the NWSL, where the issue spread across teams and where there were clear evidence of league officials being notified not taking any action. So now to borrow a line from the mini sports drafts, NHL, Mr. Bettman, y'all are on the clock. In quick news, Meadowlark Media and Apple TV Plus agree to a multi-year first-look deal for documentaries and unscripted series. Jordan Reed joins ESPN, and he will contribute to their NFL draft coverage. An overzealous Bulls fan interrupted NBC Sports Chicago broadcast and is promptly reminded not to do that. Well, and finally, our condolences and our sympathies to the Boston Red Sox, to the family of Jerry Remy, and to Remy's vast array of friends on the Red Sox and on the Red Sox announcing team. As Jerry Remy, the iconic Boston Red Sox player and broadcaster, passed away at 86 after struggling with cancer for 13 years. And we got one more little segment with you. But before we do all that, we want to say a big old congratulations to a good friend, Miss Lisa Guerrero. That's right, Lisa Guerrero of Inside Edition wrote a book of Inside Edition, former sports reporter, sports personality, one of the hosts of the iconic Best Damn Sports Show period, the Best Damn Sports Show period, to which Sports Final is somewhat of a tribute to, except I'm the only host. Like to have others. Anyway, she has written her life story. She's written her life story, and now, let's read it in full here. Acclaimed journalist, keynote speaker, and author Lisa Guerrero will have a television adaptation of her life story. Folks at Digital Journal has the scoop. It was announced that producers Todd Kamarnicki, who did Sully and Elf, and Niles Jewell, Silence and the Irishman, are attached to produce a television adaptation about the life story of Guerrero. In an interview with Digital Journal, she said, quote, "This book and show are decades in the making. I started journaling about my experiences in sports and the challenges I faced as one of the only women in the locker room back then. Fast forward to rebranding myself as an investigative reporter and chasing bad guys. What do those two things have in common? It takes bravery to do both. My mom used to say, Guerrero means warrior. Bravery is in your DNA. So excited to work with these amazing producers to bring my story to life," she elaborated. Now, this news is coming on the heels of a recent book deal with Hachette, for her inspirational memoir titled Warrior, A Journey of Little and Big Acts of Bravery. The title Warrior is derived from what her mother told her before passing away from cancer at the early age of 29. Guerrero means warrior. You are a warrior, she said. And Lisa Guerrero rose through the ranks of sports broadcasting. He became an early female sports reporter pioneer, becoming eventually a Monday Night Football sideline reporter in the devastating aftermath of that job and others where she faced sexual harassment and discrimination as one of the only women in the locker room she covered during that era. She later found her true calling in life as an investigative journalist with the show Inside Edition. And to date, she has won over 35 National Journalism Awards and honors in the last decade. And we here at Sports Final doff our cap. Where is our cap? Thank you very much. We doff our cap to Lisa Guerrero. By the way, she was one of the original hosts, as I said, of a show called Best Damn Sports Show, period. I know I got that wrong. And I will get it right now. There we go. Lisa was also one of the original hosts of the Best Damn Sports Show, period, on what was then known as the Fox Sports regional outlets. Yeah, Fox Sports regional networks. And it is, and Sports Final happens to be a derivative of that show. If you ever watch the way we do stuff here, no script, we don't do highlights, and we're sort of the adopted child, if you will, of that show, sort of the remnant of it. Or actually, it's sort of a tribute to that show. What we do, called Sports Final, is sort of an offshoot of Best Damn Sports Show, period, but not too much of an offshoot. So, from all of us here at Sports Final, to Lisa Guerrero, applause, applause, and applause. Job well done. And I can't wait to see the movie. It's a TV movie, so it'll either be on the networks or, dare we say it, Lifetime. And I'll still watch it. Why? Because I like Lisa Guerrero. She's not only a great sports personality, she's got a wild sense of humor. She enjoys life. She was also a soap opera actress, and she was also in the George Lopez show. That's right, she was. You can scoff all you want to, but she was indeed. So, from all of us here, Lisa Guerrero, thank you, bless you, and much more success. And by the way, can somebody please do an exorcism on what's his name? The religious guy? I think Kenneth Copeland's his name. That guy is strange. He got he don't have Betty Davis eyes. He's got the eyes that make you want to hit the theme to the Twilight Zone. Okay, so we applaud. If you haven't gotten her book yet, you better, because it is good. It's good reading. Okay, let us go from that to the final segment, and that is our world of sports. In one accompaniment, don't forget Nick Ricada Law channel here on YouTube. It is, of course, Lost Playing the Interwebs with the humble Minnesota attorney by the name of Nick Ricada. Us, on the other hand, we give you this. And let's give you some hockey scores. And believe me, it's a very light day in sports. In Sweden, Leksands over Malmo 5-3. In baseball in Japan and Korea, Japanese baseball, Hiroshima Carp over the Yakut Swallows 9-7. Hori for the Carp gets a win. He's 5-4. Yoshida gets a loss. He's 1-1. Kaiwum Heroes defeated the Doosan Bears in South Korea, the Korean baseball organization, 7-4. An Woo Jin gets a win. He's 11-8. And Guak gets a loss. He's 6-10. And folks, that's going to wrap it up for us. We have enjoyed being with you for at least 47 minutes of our broadcast. And we hope you will join us tomorrow, 7 p.m., special broadcast time, when the first, I do believe it is the first, that's right, the first college football playoff rankings. Thank you. The first college football playoff rankings come out. We'll bring it to you live here at 7 o'clock, special edition of Sports Final. Of course, the regular show will be seen following Game 6 of the World Series between Houston and Atlanta. And on a personal note, I hope Atlanta wins, because I would love to hear, I'd love to see contrition with the commissioner of baseball. We shouldn't have gotten rid of the All-Star game, moved it to Denver. We should have kept it. Oh well, now the Braves are one game away from getting that trophy. Houston is one game away from sending it to a game 7 back in Atlanta. Boy, the irony in all of this, is amazing and truly delicious. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I'm Steve, the Baxman Baxley. This has been a presentation of Mystifying Creativity Productions in association with the L2C Media Network and L2C Sports. Back tomorrow night, right after Game 6 of the World Series. Go Braves. Thank you. Good night, everybody.